For the last 6 years, Governor Jack Markell has appeared on First right around this time to talk about the just completed Delaware Legislative session. Governor, welcome back to First.
Thanks.
So in January, you called this year's budget, $3.9 billion budget, very difficult. We're kind of ominous in the way you presented it about the struggle that it was going to be. Are you happy with the way it came out?
I think it came out about as well as it might have. I was right in January. It turned out to be a very difficult budget, and I'm glad it's behind us.
It turned out to be a very long night. Were you expecting as long of a night as it turned out to be with money moving around?
We knew it would take a while. Didn't think it would quite take till like 5:45 in the morning. Very pleased that we got the transportation projects funded. That's something that I've been working on for a couple of years now. And within the budget itself, continue to invest in education, new money for substance abuse treatment, which is really important given the fact that Delaware loses somebody every other day to an overdose. So a lot of important things did get funded in the budget, and a lot of important bills got passed as well.
And so the transportation, which we've talked about, I think, for 2 years now, is finally settled. That's behind us. There's no, we don't have the chunk of concrete here with us today. It's in the past now. That's settled.
Yeah, and so now, the good news is a lot of important projects will actually get worked on, and very appreciative to members of the General Assembly for making that happen.
Another thing that was part of the budget put together was $31 million from mortgage settlement money that would go to filling some holes. Something similar that California did, and then were sued. And a judge ruled that the state couldn't do that. Are you confident that Delaware is in a better position than, say, California was in using those types of funds in the budget?
Well, I don't know all the details in California. I know it was a very different settlement. And when Delaware, for the settlement that California got sued on, Delaware got that money a couple years ago and used it on a lot of the, important things to help homeowners and the like. In this case, 31 out of about, I think, 61 million in total. From a couple of different settlements was used, and so I'm glad they didn't spend all of it. Some left over, but still, in terms of getting out of there with a reasonable budget, I think they did a decent job.
Attorney General Matt Denn, one of the people voicing kind of a dissenting opinion on using that money for what it was used for. Have you talked to him about his concerns there?
I haven't talked to him since the General Assembly completed their work. I actually support the Attorney General's views. He came out with his plan very early on, I think back in January, right after he was sworn in. I thought he had a lot of good ideas, and I'm hoping that we can do some of those kinds of initiatives as well.
Then announced a lot of plans to address crime in the city of Wilmington, and that's something that's been talked about in the last couple of months. There's been, it seems like, a lot of different plans with how to solve the problem in the city of Wilmington, and some questions about what plan should be enacted. Are you satisfied with the way that process is going and the way violence in Wilmington is being addressed?
Well, I think compared to where we were 6 months ago, I think we've made significant progress. We did announce at the beginning of the legislative session a commission to take a hard look at policing strategies within the city of Wilmington. They came out with a lot of recommendations. My understanding is that the city is implementing the overwhelming majority of those recommendations. In the end, what matters most is making sure that people throughout the city of Wilmington, in the business district and in the neighborhoods, feel safe. And so I think a lot of good progress is being made, and we want to make sure that it continues.
Looking over the legislative session, there's just so much volume of things that gets done. It's really hard to, in the limited time that we have, go through everything. But it seems like one of the highlights was a series of bills that addressed women's issues in the state. Would you say that that's one of the top highlights of what got accomplished this year?
Yeah, I think the women's caucus, which included a lot of men, actually did some really important work. And I also think some of the work that we did around regulatory reform, something that I announced in my State of the State speech as being important, those bills got done. The work that we've done to advance and to make it more likely that we get the Christina School District out of the city of Wilmington is important. It's not done yet, but we made some really important progress there. We made additional progress on changing the way that we compensate educators to make it possible so skilled educators who want to stay in the classroom don't feel like they have to go and become an assistant principal in order to make more money. So we're encouraged by that as well. So I think when you look at the transportation, the City of Wilmington crime issues, the City of Wilmington education issues, educator compensation, the regulatory reform. A lot of really important legislation got passed.
You mentioned education, and one thing that did pass was the testing opt-out bill. We've heard a lot about that over the last 6 months of the legislative session. Where do you stand on that?
I've never liked that bill. I think, in large part, as I've heard from particularly members of the civil rights communities, they feel like they're very concerned about the impact on kids of color and low-income kids more broadly if the opt-out bill were to become the law. So I've actually not yet received it from the legislature, but we'll be taking a hard look at that in the coming days.
What's the issue with minority children? What's the problem?
They feel that, and I think this is what they've seen around the country, that these are the kids who are most likely to fall through the cracks, and it's something that's really important that we not allow these kids to fall through the cracks.
A lot of discussion about education this year, as I mentioned. Do you feel like some of that is sort of referendum on Secretary of Education Mark Murphy, that there's sort of this, there's kind of a pushback from a lot of different sectors?
I think there's a pushback in large part because we're pushing hard. And what's most important to me is the progress that we're making. Graduation rate increased significantly in the last year alone. More kids taking and passing AP, the advanced placement exams. College access doing extraordinarily well. Our pathways to prosperity for kids who want to get work experience while they're still in high school. Again, really great progress. So to me, in the end, what's most important is the progress that our students are making, and they're making some really good progress.
Real quickly, kind of a couple of business items. New DDoS secretary taking over for Alan Levin. One of the big issues, I guess, kind of making sure that Chemours stays.
Chemours.
I never noticed because it sounds like Nemours.
Yeah.
Chemours.
Chemours. Yeah, like chemistry and the Moors put together.
Chemours.
Yes.
You got to work on that name. a big push to make sure that they stay in Wilmington.
Well, that would be terrific. We've been very aggressive, and I know that their leadership team understands that we've been very aggressive. I mean, it's a business decision in the end, but it would certainly mean a lot to Wilmington, a lot to Delaware to keep them right here in Wilmington.
A lot has gone on, as we said, in the legislative session, but it's been a big month, June, in Dover, as far as entertainment goes. You have the NASCAR races, Firefly Festival, followed by the inaugural Big Barrel Festival this year. Brought a lot of new people here. We talked to a lot of them. One of the new people we talked to who's visiting Delaware for the first time was Mariah from Greencastle, PA. Let's see what she had to say.
Okay.
You come down to Delaware a lot. Have you ever been to Delaware before?
No, actually a friend from school lives in Delaware. It's my first time being here. She always talks it up, and I'm like, this is pretty cool for Delaware, I'll have to say.
So this kind of put Delaware on the map for you.
I will probably come back.
So it's kind of the typical thing that we heard from people talking to them at festivals. Their first impression, Delaware, but then they came and saw the festivals and what it had to offer, and kind of enjoyed themselves almost surprisingly in Delaware.
Of course they enjoy themselves when they visit Delaware. The only people who enjoy Delaware more than those who visit are those who live here.
Right.
So we encourage people, because we have a lot of folks from around the area who might commute into Wilmington. We have people who are into Delaware. Some folks go the other way. We want them all living right here because this is an amazing state with so many wonderful opportunities.
To live and work.
As
I've heard.
Yes.
So how does the state tourism department capitalize on, obviously, Big Barrel, Firefly, huge draws to get people here? How do we stretch that out through the rest of the year?
Well, it is an amazing opportunity for us to get folks to visit the first time. And when they do, and they get to see what Delaware's all about, we want them to keep coming back and, to go to our restaurants, to stay in our motels and hotels, and to visit all of our sites, to go to the beaches, to be in the Brandywine Valley. We have so much to offer, and so, part of it, our Economic Development Office, Division of Tourism, endless discoveries.
Right.
So the Firefly and Big Barrel, great way to sort of get your feet wet, but we want people coming back to discover all of those endless discoveries.
All right, maybe we'll have Mariah back here to do a testimonial on her time spent here in Delaware. Governor Jack Markell, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.